Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to the General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen of the City of New York, and to our Labour, Literature and Landmark Lecture Series, and to our very first program of 2019. I am Karen Taylor, Program Director of the General Society. This program is supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. I would also like to thank our Artistic Director for the display windows, Thomas Donahue, for his wonderful window display, and encourage all of you to take a look when you leave this evening. Yeah. The General Society was founded in 1785 by the skilled craftsmen of New York City. It was founded by 22 artisans. Today, our 234-year-old organization continues to serve the people of the City of New York through our educational and cultural programs. These include our tuition-free Mechanics Institute, our Lock Museum, which is upstairs, and you're welcome to visit afterwards, the General Society Library, and our nearly 200-year-old lecture series, of which, of course, tonight's lecture is part of. You will find more information about the General Society in the blue and white postcard on your chair, and information about joining the library at the front of the room. We have such a special program this evening with poet and memoirist Irene O'Garden, who will be discussing her brand new memoir, Risking the Rapids: How My Wilderness Adventure Healed My Childhood. And I do want to mention this book will be for sale, and Irene will be more than happy to sell this. Not sell this, sign this. Sign this at the conclusion of the program. Irene O'Garden has won or been nominated for prizes in nearly every writing category, from stage to e-screen, hardcovers, children's books, as well as literary magazines and anthologies. Her critically acclaimed play, Woman on Fire, which starred Judith Ivey, played sold-out houses at Off-Broadway's Cherry Lane Theatre and was nominated for a Lucille Lortel Award. Ms. O'Garden was awarded the Pushcart Prize for her lyric essay, Glad to Be Human. Her poems and essays have been featured in dozens of literary journals and award-winning anthologies. And just to say a few additional words about Irene, I'm very pleased to introduce our artistic window director, Thomas Donahue.
Thank you and good evening. If Irene was only my friend, I could spend the whole night talking about how much she means to me and how much she's given to me and our community in the Mid-Hudson. Karen mentioned about the artisans, the 22 artisans that started the society. And there were saddlers and painters and silversmiths and people who made things with their hands. Irene makes things with words, and she chooses them with such incredible care. It's impressive to read her work, to actually see the words on the page, but to listen to her read to you is an extra special treat. Risking the Rapids, for me, when I had the opportunity to read it, it impressed on me how so many of us look for answers. And there's a few people that we have the good luck to run into who challenge us by saying it's not the answer, it's the question we need to form. Irene, throughout her career, has continually worked towards asking the right questions. And somehow, from that, the right answers have always come out. So with that, I'm really excited to hear Irene speak.
Thank you. Those of you who know me know I'd rather be out from behind a podium. This room is full of so many people I love. It is just a treasure to have you all here tonight. Of course, I want to thank my agent who made it all possible. I want to thank my therapist who made it happen early on, and my beloved editor who helped shape this into the book that some of you will hold as you leave tonight. So I guess I can now say my life is an open book. There are a couple of different voices throughout this book. There's a child voice, and then it grows in maturity. For those of you who don't know, it's the story of my growing up in a rather repressed Midwest household in the mid-century, with a television personality dad, an icy mom, rivers of martinis, and 6 other siblings with whom I grew up. Guest of honor tonight, my sister Ro is here. I mention her because you're going to hear her name in the selections that I've read, or that I will be reading. And the book is braided, the narrative of my upbringing is braided with the story of a wilderness journey that I took with some of my siblings in 2014, which was supposed to be a gentle rafting trip and actually turned into a rather harrowing rapids trip. So I'm going to read you a selection from 3 parts of the book, one starting, one in the middle, and one at the end. And this is a section from an early chapter called Within These Walls. And in it, you will hear mention of Keiko, my older sister, Tom, an older brother, and Ro, my little sister. I'm dedicating this part to anyone here who has ever tried to make anything. Here's my room from Keiko when she joined the convent. Me and my mom and Tom put new wallpaper of blue with pink flowers on. Wallpaper paste smells good like cream of wheat. In my room, I like to be by myself. When my feelings get hurt, flop on bed and scream in pillow. When I am bad, they send me here. I'm proud of Keiko to be a nun so kind and loving. She is good, which I wish I could be. I'm like a stick on the ground who wants to be a ruler on teacher's desk, but how? Sometimes I stay overnight at the convent, which I hope rubs off on me. I thought I'd see nun hair at night, but they wear nightcaps. On my walls, I put my saint, my penance, my black paper shadow, a state fair man cut, shelves of statues of 2 colts grazing, and Morgan horse, China lady of my birthstone, 2 China nuns playing baseball that I had 3 of but dropped the catcher and she broke. In my window seat, I read bookmobile books, which comes by our school on Wednesdays. Get King of the Wind, Misty of Chincoteague, Black Beauty, and every book of horses I love so much. Tame them, ride them, care for them. They always love you. I read everything about and draw them. If I only had 1 horse, I would be happy as a millionaire, or even just more horse statues. Keiko left me these 3 dolls of foreign lands to look at, but I don't. Dolls are boring. I would give them to Ro, but she'd pull them apart. If you're a girl, you're supposed to have dolls, but what do they see in them? Why pretend they walk or run around or talk when you can? Go outside and do it yourself. The other thing I like in here is make things. Cards, pictures, or of Play-Doh that smells so salty and good, or paint by numbers, though I hate numbers, or sentences I really like to make. Making makes you happy. Better than Monopoly, because at the end, you have something to keep or give away. But that's not easy. You can't get it right, only so you feel okay if you stop. Everything goes wrong. Glue spills or your hand wrecks the line. All you want to do is throw the whole thing out because you spent all this time and all you have is something ugly. Sometimes you feel so bad and mad you never want to make another thing. Stomp outside to play or read your book. But nothing's interesting, or your eyes can't keep on your sentence, and then you know you want to get it right, so try again. And sometimes it's pretty good. This is a section from the middle of the book, and it is self-explanatory. Renovation. Why don't we give a luncheon for your friends? A luncheon? In the 60s? Horrifying thought. Mom, nobody does that anymore. Everyone would laugh at me. Later with my friends, I laugh at her. She's so out of it. She never asks what I want, how I feel. It's all how it reflects her. How do you prove who you are to someone who will not see you? My scorn of her offerings is exceeded only by her contempt of mine. The summer I returned from my first painful work-study scholarship year at the Teeny Girls College in Madison, Wisconsin, Mom and Dad take 2 weeks in Scottsdale, Arizona, their first private vacation in decades. A few mornings after they leave, I go to the kitchen, reach for a glass. Our ever-dirty cupboards. Wouldn't Mom be tickled if I cleaned them? I throw away the ancient mayo jars, the crusting ketchup, the rusting cocoa tin, and replace the cruddy newsprint with fresh Delft-pattern shelf paper, and step back to admire my sparkling shelves. But the cupboard doors are streaky with years of grease and cigarette smoke, your hypnotizing smoke that slowed you into stories over the black kitchen table. I see with fresh eyes that for 2 semesters have been elsewhere. What does it mean, this kitchen? What do these colors mean? These supposedly white walls? Who called for these chrome-edge, shrill red Formica countertops? Those gray plastic tiles? Whose idea was this chewy blue and white linoleum? This table, this black oval abyss of metal, reflecting chomping jaws, clattering flatware? Who found these awful coffee-potted curtains, which actually combine this unappetizing color scheme, red, black, gray, and white? All of it lit by ghostly bouncing blue fluorescent light. It looked modern once, you said, sophisticated. This meant, I guess, a place for people who drank martinis to mix them. Yet you despised it, too. Someday I'll get a new kitchen. After I wash the cupboards, the dingy walls cringe. I'd read your family circles. I could, what the heck, repaint those walls and cupboards with a nice glossy enamel. But when cupboards and the walls are spanking white, the sad, scratched linoleum looks like a kennel floor. Those ads for simple self-stick floors. I have my tuition fund from waitressing, don't I? When will I get a chance to give a gift this big? I drive to Sears and buy a brand new kitchen floor. Cut and fit and lay the no-wax tiles all Saturday and Sunday. The kitchen looks like a glittering showroom. You'll be so happy. Except, of course, the gray plastic tiles on the windowless wall look like pigeon filth. More than paint is called for. More than contact paper mimicking ceramic tiles. Sears has wood paneling, genuine wood, stained a rich walnut. Back to my fund, back to the store, back to the house, panels roped to the car top. I measure the panels and cut them with a handsaw. Whatever certitude of love or of design buoyed me through the washing of the shelves, the painting of the cabinets, the transformation of my lifelong kitchen floor, utterly abandons me when, crowbar in hand, I face the gray plastic tiles. The root of my tongue pulses. My fingers tingle. I could wait till you get back. We could panel it together or take it back, because what if you don't like it? Of course you will. You'll love it. You've been wishing for this kitchen all our lives. I must do it now. I'll never have another chance. School will start. I won't have time. The panels will prop up against the wall and never get installed. And what good is Cinderella in a golden gown if the coach is still a pumpkin? The transformation has to be complete. Step into my beautiful room, made for you, made of love. Let me fulfill your dream. There was something fierce about it, too. Stop talking about a new kitchen and do it. I swing the crowbar, shattering the plastic tiles. I'm up all night, cutting, fitting, nailing, but I'm too exhausted to apply the trim along the very top. When Mom and Dad come up the walk, I catapult to meet them. I have a big surprise for you. I squeak in glee and lead them to the new kitchen, clean kitchen, bright kitchen, kitchen of love and warm wood. You stiffen at the threshold. Come in, I spin around. Do you like it? I did it mostly myself, though Jim and Ro help with the floor. What a surprise. You resist entering, as if contagion awaits. You always said you wanted a new kitchen. Now you have it. What do you think? Your gaze swivels corner to corner. I'm very surprised. That's genuine wood paneling, not fake. I used my tuition money, but I can waitress more this summer. Your silence expands, extends, and coats the room, settles like dust on wet paint. Finally, it sinks into me, smothering my lungs. Your old prescription. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. My heart is punching. You can't say something nice. Not one nice thing? Not even A for effort? I want to scream, to sob, but I won't give you the satisfaction. In continued silence, without so much as an awkward smile, you go upstairs to unpack, guillotining any further outreach. But magnified through my suspended tears, I see the admiration in Dad's eyes. He puts his arm around my shoulder. Congratulations, honey, this is just remarkable what you've done. Thanks, Dad. The floodgates open. I thought she'd like it. I'm sorry if I did something wrong. She just always said she... I'm proud of you, honey. It was very generous of you, but you shouldn't have used your tuition money. I'm going to reimburse you. It was going to be my gift. He gives me his handkerchief. That's all right. I'll take care of it. When it came, I took the money. The trim went unattached for years. This last is an excerpt from later in the book, a chapter called Montana Day 6, Curdles and Limits. You'll hear mention of our nephew Don and nephew Mike, who's the ramrod of the raft trip. He has accidentally directed us to paddle past our reserved campsite. The sky curdles with dark clouds. Oh, say it ain't so. Our rain gear is rolled inside dry bags we can't open now. Can't chance soaking our sleeping bags. Mike scours the shorelines for alternate campsites. While not a highly trafficked area, it is Friday night. All the mapped ones are taken. Oh my God. Hour 6 and 15 miles into today's paddle, immensely weary. Now, as meteorologist Rowe predicted, it starts to rain. Not a sweet summer, thank God it's falling on our sweaty selves rain, but a solid, cold, muscle-clenching, what are you doing here, rain? We are now more than drenched. We are cold. Cold, as we've seen, is a trigger for Rowe. She can endure heat in a way I can't, but cold sends her somewhere into our Minnesota childhood. Days of soggy snowsuits, mittens hidden or mismatched or still wet in the morning. Toe-numbing walks to school in rubber boots that effectively transfer body heat directly into the snow and conduct icicles of cold directly up the legs, souring the heart, pressing tears from the eyes. We're shivering. Can't be that far from a campsite, can we? At least the effort of paddling offers muscular compensation, a bit of warmth from movement. Bright-veined lightning stabs a mountain. Thunder cracks. The downpour begins in earnest. More waterfall than rain. Pull off! Pull off! Everybody off the water now! A river raft is not a place to be in a storm, and this one is building. With tremendous effort, we order our rubbery muscles to pull us to shore, get out, haul the boats up, but once we're on the bank, our bodies go from warm to freezing. Can't stop, teeth chattering, body trembling. We all huddle under a pine for a bit of shelter. Rose, pale and shaking, I'm helpless to help her. Then, from his miraculous pack, Don pulls 2 small plastic bags. He tears open the emergency rain poncho. We help Rowe into it. It's the density of a cleaner's bag, but it sheds the rain. The other packet holds a silver emergency blanket. In it, he wraps not his kids, but Rowe and me, his old aunties. It is surprisingly, welcomely warm. I practically want to cry for his thoughtfulness. It starts to hail. If our jaws were not so tightly clenched, they would have dropped. This is pretty pure. A thin strip of mylar between us and the elements, which are trying themselves out in all kinds of configurations. Warmth, rest, food, dry clothing, basics. None of them available now. We don't gripe. Everyone is wet. But sure wish we hadn't missed that first campsite. It is 6 p.m. Light is fading in the mountain valley. The hail subsides. The rain lets up slightly. Let's take our chance now, Mike says. It might get stronger, but we've got to make a break for it. The map shows a campsite not too far off. back down the hill, the ubiquitous slippery rocks, shove the rafts back on the water, take up our paddles again. The rain still broadly falls, but the lightning has business elsewhere for the moment. And of course, the rapids are still rapids, and still we have to pay attention and pull and curve and try to avoid stone shores and projectiles, but soon, we know, soon we'll be out. And indeed, it is true. Within an hour, a splendid campsite comes into view, perfectly situated on a promontory above the river. But wait, is that smoke? Yes. Hell! There must be a dozen people up there. They've erected a giant tarp and have a blazing fire going. They wave and toast us with their beer cans as we pass. Our hearts are so heavy, they almost swamp the boat. We have to paddle on. Thank you.
Please wait for the microphone for questions.
Yes. Q&A, if you wish. Get warm first.
Did you survive?
I'm sorry, that would be a spoiler. Oh, that's okay. If you'd like to ask Ro if anything is accurate. Sure.
How long was your trip? Please use the microphone. I'm sorry, how long was your trip?
The trip was 6 of the longest days we've ever had, wouldn't you say? So chronologically, it was 6 days. Yes. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm wondering how long it took to write the book, start to finish.
Well, there's so many people in this room who could testify to that. I actually started the heart and core of this book. Well, the child voice came very early, probably in the 80s sometime. I wrote a little set of essays for myself in that child voice, which I really enjoyed exploring. The family, I should preface this by saying, the reason I write, my basic reason for writing, is really to find insight. Something will happen to me, or something I will see, or there's a sense experience that I have, and it knocks on my heart in a way. And so I always want to know, well, what? I want to explore that. Why did I respond that way? And family is it's the biggest knock we all get on our hearts. There were so many things going on in our family, and so much. So I started writing about the family probably in, the late 80s, early 90s, and came up with a long poem. Some of you may know I am a poet, and I find that the way to share my poetry with the world is to mostly take the white space out, because white space tends to scare people. It's like, I said, oh no, now we have to think of this. So I just use the words in the same order, but it looks like prose. And so I started the family part of that early in the 90s, but it wasn't, it was the angel, totally wrestling with the angel. I will not let thee go until thou bless me. And boy, it just did not want to let go. And so, or I didn't want to let go of it. So probably the heart of the book, of that part of the book, dates to the 90s. But the wilderness trip happened in 2014. And that trip itself, for all of its challenges and trauma, it wasn't really, well, it was traumatic in some respects. It was with beloved family members and experienced family members. And so, and our family really loves to talk about itself. And that experience combined with the the writing that I had already done made me go, I think there's so much similarity, in a sense, between the power of these and the emotional impact that these experiences had on me. So it really was, I would say, I completed this version in, what was it, Anne Marie? I don't know, 2016? Huh? Yeah. So that's 2016. It's 2019 now. So, yeah, 2 years ago. So took almost as long to tell you as it did.
I just wanted to make a brief comment about the book, having had a chance to read it. I loved it as a narrative. I loved it the way it just went that way, but also I can't wait now to read it in pieces and just dip into it, because I found each little segment had its own wisdom in it, and it stands alone, yet it works with, I love a through line. And it's just great on both levels. So just to say
Thank
that.
you.
Your poetic images shine through in your writing, and it's just so beautiful to listen to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, if there's any poetry in the writing that I do, I also have to credit the family I grew up in. My mother really appreciated poetry. My father loved poetry. That we were taught to really love words and enjoy, not only enjoy them seriously, but enjoy them in nonsensical form. And that's one of the great gifts that I've gotten. This is not a whole book of gripes, but I am very grateful, in particular, for that gift from my family. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Irene, did you ever, two questions. Did you ever finish the trim in the kitchen? And when you went on the wilderness trip, what were you expecting from that trip?
Well, no, I don't believe I ever attached that trim. I don't know how it got on. And the wilderness trip happened in the configuration that it did because unexpectedly in 2014, I'm one of, I grew up with 6 other siblings, and one of our older brothers died unexpectedly. And at his memorial service, my younger sister, Ro, and I spoke with my younger brother, Jim, who goes out into the wilderness every year. He's done it for 45 years. It nourishes him on a very deep level. It heals him annually. And when we spoke, and he's always inviting, come on back. And Ro had gone into the backwoods with him before. And I always thought, there's a part of that younger brother of mine whom I just love that I'm never really going to understand unless I go out in the wilderness with him. And you know what? He's been doing it 45 years. His sons have been out there too. I could hardly be in safer hands. And he described what we would do as a float trip, as a floating down the river at the south. And we're talking the most remote part of the lower 48 states, which is Montana's Bob Marshall Wilderness. It took a day-long, 11-hour horse ride to get to where we were going to put the rafts into the river. I had never paddled. I had never camped. I had never, my wilderness experience was just teeny. And, wilderness, none really. And my outdoors experience was quite limited. But I thought, well, come on. Let's do this. Let's do this because guess what? Tick, tick, tick. Our older brother died. So I was 62. My younger brother is 60. My sister is ageless. So, So when are we going to do it if we weren't doing it then? So that prompted us to do it. And, was it my brother's fault that there was a giant snowpack that year that melted and made the river much higher and faster? It wasn't his fault. But you get out there and there's nothing you can do. You cannot leave. You cannot leave.
Two simple questions.
Mm-hmm.
What town did you grow up in Illinois? And do you remember the name of the river that you rafted on?
Yes. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the name of the river, it is the South Fork of the Flathead River. Do you know it? Ah! How great. Oh, fantastic. Oh, wow. Wow, thank you for that important work, because that is not an easy place to be. Yeah, what a great thing. Wow, wow. That's great, that's great. Oh, thank you.
Hi, Irene.
Hi, Pam.
I'm very curious about the first section. Were you living in a convent, or did
No,
they
no, no.
put you in there for some particular
No,
reason?
I would have overnights from time to time at the convent, because my
Wow.
sister was a nun. So I was hoping to, and I guess maybe that wasn't entirely clear. You know, Keiko going off to be a nun and left me her room. And so sometimes
No,
I
of course,
go and stay at the convent, hoping it'll rub off on me because I was not good and I wanted to be good. And I thought I'd get to see nun hair.
I think I was traumatized by my own memories of nun experiences.
Oh.
No, it was beautiful. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Mm.
Hi. You mentioned chewy linoleum.
Yeah.
So that was rolling around in my mouth for the next couple sentences. And then you tied it together beautifully when you spoke of the appetizer of something.
Oh, yes, the unappetizing color scheme.
Yeah, but that goes through all your reading, that kind of connections.
Thank you.
Yeah, very unusual.
Thank you.
Singular.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
So much. Thank you.
Hi, Irene.
Hi, darling.
Really enjoying the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank
And the
you.
book is just awesome. Thank you for mentioning that about your mother with regard to teaching you about words and loving poetry. 'Cause it reminds me of, this idea that artists somehow, some psychologists believe artists suffer sort of a psychic wound that has to be replenished and refilled, which motivates them for their art. So it's nice to see the yin and the yang of your mother sort of imposing this psychic wound, and yet somehow giving you the lifeboat.
Yeah, through it, the way
Yes.
to heal it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
And we see that in society, like when 9/11 occurred and how everybody came together in New York City. And, you see the yin and the yang, the bad, the good from the bad. I guess my question to you is, by the way, folks, the article for the essay for the Pushcart Award, Glad to Be Human, I work with seniors, and to make them happy, I show them YouTube videos of puppies and puppies with babies. If you want to make yourself feel good, read that essay. I'm telling you, and keep it on file and read it when you need an upbeat. Thank you. Anyway, my question: as an artist, I know that you have written such a wide variety of venues, for lack of a better word. Your poetry is, of course, awesome. And then you wrote that amazing one-woman play, Women on Fire, children's books. How do you find, and now this book, how do you find the difference? Is there a difference in an approach to these separate little venues of writing?
That's a good question. Sometimes I don't know what it is when I start writing. I'm not sure what form it's going to take, but I do continually ask it what it wants to be. So there are some things that simply want to be, that was like a direct response to the forest, that I wanted, Forest, what would you like? That was instantly became a children's book. But there are other things I'm going, is it an essay? Is it a poem? Is it and certain things have a particular length that they want to be. So I go, I guess that's not a poem. So I try to let the material tell me what it wants to be. I do, as you've picked up, write for the ear. I love the sound of words, and so whatever it's for, and that's really what all my work has in common. That's really what the poetry is at the heart. But I think my work just benefits from being read aloud, whether it is a piece of theater or a children's book or an essay or, hey, hopefully I'll be able to read the memoir aloud. But anyway, just because I feel what I love about words is one of our main ways of exchanging meaning. Which is the thing that I love. I love all the external trappings of words, but the fact that they convey meaning is the most wonderful thing to me. So whatever amplifies that, and if we speak the words as well as read them, then that amplifies it into a whole nother sense. So I'm all about amplification of meaning. Yeah.
Oh, hi, Irene. It's me. Hi.
Oh, hello, Mal, dear.
I'm so curious about you finding that young one's voice.
Uh-huh.
And what I'd love to know your perspective on is, as you wrote this book, did you find that the little one wrote in equal measure to the big one? Did they help each other?
Absolutely.
Did one write for the other one?
The young one is the absolute tuning fork, you know? The young one is the purest iteration of awareness, and we all begin there. So it's what do we naturally notice? What are our natural emotions? So that to me is where the truth is. And then we just carry that, and we let it out or we don't. I think the more we let that out, the greater our healing can be. And, one of the things that writing this book, and as I speak to people about this book, I've realized the ultimate thing, they say, okay, Irene, no, you only have time for one sentence, that's all you can say, you can't say anything else. I will say that it is never too late to heal, and it is never too soon to start. Yeah. So anyway, I suppose that's as good a point as any to leave it, huh? Thank you. We'll talk. It's a photo op. That's what Thank you. Oh, sister is the best.
Hello. Could I just ask for your attention just for 1 minute more? Thank you so much. First of all, no. Irene,
Yes.
thank you for that really extraordinary and moving presentation, and your absolutely beautiful and poetic writing. I can't wait to read the book. It's really terrific. So anyway, we were so delighted and honored that you should launch your book at the General Society. So thank you very much. And we would like to make a presentation. And to do so is Victoria Dengel, our Executive Director.
Thank you, Irene. Yes, and Irene, thank you. You are as beautiful as your words, and your elegance really is something to be treasured and enjoyed, and we feel so lucky that you're a part of the General Society, and may there be many happy returns to our building and the organization. And Irene has been made a lifetime member of the library, so we've already ensured that.
Dream come true.
Yes, thank you. And what a lovely evening with you once more. So on behalf of the General Society of the Mechanics and Tradesmen, founded 1785, we express our gratitude to Irene O'Garden for risking the rapids, how my wilderness adventure healed my childhood, for her participation in the General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen Labor, Literature, and Landmark Lecture Series. So thank you, Irene.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is truly a tremendous honor to read in this very, very hallowed space. I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, in near conclusion, we hope that you're going to join us now for a glass of wine. And we also want to mention that, of course, Irene will be signing Risking the Rapids, and I hope you will consider purchasing the book. I want to thank you for coming, and you will also find a list of upcoming lectures on the front table. And just one final thing, our executive director.
And that we're going, one of our regular lecture goers read the notice of Irene's lecture, and Bob Dawson is a pianist who regularly attends, and he offered to play piano as during the cocktail reception. So Bob will be joining us. So thank you. And to your audience.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming out on such a frigid night. We so appreciate it. And
thank
please
you.
join us now for a glass of wine.
So delightful to see you all. Thank you.